welcome to edition 97, part 6 of All Killa No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn, and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we start, we'll do our usual disclaimer. This isn't hero worship. We do this podcast because we have a mutual interest in serial killers. As long as we are doing this podcast, it stops us from writing to them in prison. Part 6.
Part fucking 6. And if you are like Rachel Fairburn and you hate trials, then I'm really sorry that I still have a little bit of trial for you.
When is this going to end? I mean, we've been in the company of the Manson family since early December 2022, and it just keeps rolling on.
I'm going to cover... So basically, I want to talk about Tex Charles Watson, Tex's trial, because his was a separate trial to the 3 women and to Charles Manson. So I'm going to rattle through it with your permission, Rachel.
Go. I shall listen and drink my tea.
Basically, he did a runner when they were when the investigations were happening, and he went to Mexico, he went to Hawaii, and then he went back and tried to find the family in California desert, couldn't find them. So then he goes back to Copeville in Texas, which you may remember from 18 hours ago of podcasting. that is where he's from. So there's this whole thing about like he has to be... I didn't realise this really until this case, that if someone's in a different state and wants to be prosecuted in another one, you have to extradite them, almost like it's another country.
Really?
Yeah, I thought the states had more cooperation, but I especially think between Texas and California, there would be, like, friction historically as well. So in December 1969, there's basically a warrant for his arrest, but it's a very long time to get someone extradited. Now, technically, he's in custody while he's waiting extradition. Mm-hmm. He gets treated incredibly... What's the right phrase? Well, in quite a lax way. So he gets a special... Because he's a vegetarian, he gets special vegetarian meals cooked and brought to him by his own mother. So while he's in custody, he's eating home-cooked food. He doesn't have to wear a prison uniform. They let him bring in a record player and his own records. And he was even in a cell next to female prisoners. Which I think is I don't know, it just gives me the ick.
Yeah.
Now, the attorney at the time is Bill Boyd, and he said, I'm not having him... I think they wanted to sentence him to death, basically, because he was a Texan boy, and it would be, what's the word? It's sort of symbolic, right, totemic, if they execute him. And they were worried that California would be too soft. So Bill Boyd, who's the attorney at the time, was like, I'm going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, and he did. His dad, the attorney's dad, Bill Boyd's dad, was a really powerful politician, so they just did everything they could to keep him there. So the judge who was appointed for the extradition hearing was Judge David Brown, and he was like, yeah, okay, that's fine, he can stay in Texas. But then it goes up to the Supreme Court. He says no, he's got to leave Texas. Goes up to the Supreme Court again, and Hugo Black said, nah, he can't stay. He's got to go to California. So he flies back in September of 1970. Now, this is about the time that Charles Manson is on trial. Mm-hmm. So he arrives during the trial, but not in time to be a part of the trial, obviously. He actually testifies in the... Oh, shut the fuck up. You hear my cat squeaking in the background, even though he has already had breakfast. You're a fucking scab.
Pretending he's not had his breakfast.
Yeah, and also not pulling his weight. Like, at least the dog barks when people come to the door. The cat does nothing except looks at me like I'm a piece of shit if I dare sit on my own sofa.
Amazing.
Anyway, where the fuck was I? Oh, so he's been extradited and he goes back. He also had been on hunger strike during this time. So he basically, as a sort of, a protest, he refuses to have any food. He loses about £30, and most of it is in the last 2 months before he's extradited, when it looks like he's definitely going to end up going to LA. So it was like a protest. When he goes to trial, it's August 24th, 1971. And again, it was Bugliosi who was prosecuting him, who's the same guy who prosecuted the previous ones. Now, he tried to sort of look like a good kind of Southern college boy. So he wore like a blue blazer and, those, what they call like cream chinos. I think there's...
Just chinos, yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you what a red flag I see them on men. You know, if I see them on a young man, you know, the cream chinos and blue blazer combo.
Yeah, I mean, on a young person, yeah.
I literally see it as an unconvicted rapist.
It's very young conservative, isn't it?
It really fucking is. It's someone who won't get prosecuted for anything because they're a good swimmer. I honestly...
Oh, definitely. I mean, you know, Tim has started wearing sort of darker coloured chinos in his, say, older years. He's bloody 5 years younger than me. And they look quite smart, but he wears them with, like, a jumper, you know, like a Nike jumper or a Champion sweater, that kind of thing. But I think when you see that young fogey look, when it's young people dressed older and not in a vintage way...
Yeah.
It's always boys. You're right.
Do you know what my partner's
Red flag.
got a thing against? Women. There's more to that sentence. Women
That's good to hear.
from money who, as adults, call their father daddy.
It's horrible, isn't it? I mean, I've said this before, so obviously my dad's Welsh and he's in South Wales, so his family actually used to call their parents Mammy and Daddy when they were adults. But that's different.
Yeah.
When it's daddy.
Yeah.
Also, when Prince Harry was doing his whining interview, and he kept saying mummy, it's like, mate, just say mother. You sound like you want fucking breastfeeding now.
But this is the thing, is like, I think posh people are quite often only around posh people, so they don't realise that's weird.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing he needs to fucking get a grip about as well. You've only been... Right, can I say something that he said in that... Right, I'm not interested in Prince Harry in any way, fucking shape or
Let's
form.
not talk about him then. And it's a massive distraction while they sort of fuck the NHS. Let's not talk about them.
Can I just say one thing?
Go on.
Right, I think he's been watching something like This Is England to try and make him seem like he's, you know, relatively normal. He does this bit where he's like... He's reading a bit from his autobiography and it said, oh, it's all right for William. I know my place. I'm here living with Dad, eating takeaway over the sink. The fuck are you on about?
Who eats takeaway over a sink? Is this another posh person thing?
Precisely.
Does that mean that he was breastfed over a sink by a wet nurse?
Probably.
Fucking hell. I'd see, the only thing I've ever heard about this Prince Harry thing was bits I've heard from other people, so it's really funny to see what you've remembered compared to everyone else.
It's just fucking mental. The whole thing's fucking mad. Also, shave your head, mate. Your hair's gone. Fucking Brillo pad. Anyway, Tex. Tell me about Tex.
So he rocks up in court looking very smart. And he testifies in the trial of Charles Manson and the other Manson members. He has got very weird behaviour during it. So not only has he been on sort of like, starving himself, he would also start to throw himself into cell walls. Psychiatrists were saying he's like regressing to a fetal state. Apparently he wouldn't really speak. He was hospitalised at one point. Basically his mental state was deteriorating. But they think that it was sort of a ploy and that he was sort of pretending to appear
of course it is.
Like there was something wrong. So he would sit there in the witness box or sit there in the box and he would hang his mouth open so it looked like he didn't understand what was going on. And that's why he was being sort of cross-examined. The picture they were painting was that he was a slave who didn't understand anything. He didn't speak very much. He was generally quite silent, but he did admit that he shot and stabbed people in the Tate LaBianca thing. But he said, oh no, I didn't kill Sharon Tate. And anything that looked like it was to do with planning things or premeditation, he said, oh no, that was Charles Manson, or he blamed the girls for it. So the whole thing he's going for is, I don't understand anything, it was all them. Now he starts off with this sort of like open mouth, can barely speak thing. And by the end of it, he's cross-examined for so long, he sort of gives up and starts trying to fight his case back. And the jury's like, oh, he's absolutely fine. And probably always has been.
Yes.
And he's just pretending to try and get off.
Good.
Now, during the cross-examination, Bugliosi, who's fucking great, eventually gets him to admit that it was him who stabbed Sharon Tate. I don't know why he thought, oh, that'll be the thing that will... You know, that's a weird thing where a serial killer or someone will do a horrible crime, but they're like, but I didn't do that bit.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because she was so famous?
No, I think it's because she was pregnant. I mean,
of course.
An 8-month pregnant woman. Let's be honest, it's a fucking horrendous crime, and to be able to do that, fuck me, there's got to be something seriously wrong with you. But imagine you're going to be going into prison, and you think, well, I'm going to go to prison for this. Oh, fucking hell, if the other inmates find out that I've killed a pregnant woman, I'm going to get my fucking ass kicked, and worse, probably.
It's very interesting that I think it's in his trial he admits to stabbing Sharon Tate, because in the original trial of the 3 women, Leslie Van Houten's defence are like, can you just please say that you stabbed her, because you did, and our defendant stabbed her after she was already dead, but she's already said she stabbed her, so can you just admit it? And he's like, I'm not fucking safe. So he refused to admit it during her trial, and he was like, why should I save her, basically.
Do you know what I think about all of these people? I think they're fucking horrible, and they're absolute time wasters.
Oh, yeah. Well, the fact that the trial goes on for so that was 9 months with the other one, and then this is another however fucking long. No, well, he's on trial until, let's see, starts in, is it September? He was at August 71, and then it closes on October 71, so that's another however many months. So he was convicted for the LaBianca's murder for Sharon Tate and everyone at her house as well. He's sentenced to death. Now, he's sent to the same prison as Charles Manson, which is San Quentin, which obviously you know of. What do you think of when you hear San Quentin?
Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Isn't that fucking mad? Every day. Yeah. Do you reckon he's out there what's the gig before or after?
It's interesting that everyone thinks that. What's the, what did I hear? This is irrelevant. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, the Unsolved Mysteries podcast. You might enjoy that. And there was a bloke on it talking, and the way he spoke sounded like the way Johnny Cash sings.
Really?
Yeah, it was really weird. Really weird.
You know, one of the reasons why this trial took so long is because the lawyers from both sides were frequently held in contempt of court.
Fucking hell. This is chaos.
And in fact, the Bugliosi and the LADA, they set up basically what was like a crowdfunder to cover the fees of always being held in contempt. So they were like, to the public, like, if you want these people to go down, we've done this thing so we can get this, but technically it's contempt of court, so could you just cover the cost to get the conviction over the line?
Fucking hell.
Isn't it mad?
Yeah.
Now, Tex's whole defence was completely different to the other members of the Manson family. He basically did that. They said Charles's defence was the girls did it all, and the girls were like, yeah, we did it all. But then obviously Linda Kasabian was like, it was all Charles Manson, would have done anything he said. And then Tex was like, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to say that I'm clinically insane. So he...
Well, it's nice to have a bit of variety, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I think it's mad that the others didn't try an insanity defence.
Yeah, I agree, actually, yeah.
This is very weird. So he comes forward when he's testifying in their trial, and they're like, this is a very delicate witness. He's he says he's got mental problems. He's been in a psychiatric ward. Charles Manson steps up and went, do you know what? Give me half an hour with him. He says this to Vincent Bugliosi and says, I think I can cure him.
Fucking hell.
And he says, Bugliosi goes to him and he says, no, do you know what? I can't let you do that. And he says, I can't afford to take that chance, because if you cured him, then everyone would believe that you were Jesus Christ.
Right, okay.
Isn't that fucking mad? The 2 pleas were, he's not guilty, and the second one was that he's not guilty by reason of insanity. So then it means that the jury have to decide whether they think he's guilty. Then they have to go forward based on that about whether they think that him insane would still make him guilty. If he was insane, would he still be guilty? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it went on for longer than it should, because basically he's absolutely bullshitting, and he is eventually, like I say, found guilty. He gets death penalty, and then it gets commuted, is that what you say?
Yeah,
down to
life.
Yeah, to life, because of that change in the law. He then moves to California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. Am I saying that right? He starts sort of like really engaging in books. Are we going to talk about their time in prison? Because I've got loads on Tex's time in prison. But
talk about his time in prison. I've just got basically what they're up to now.
Great. Okay.
To be honest, I was coming into this hoping for a light romp.
Well, sorry.
And we're only at the fucking fingering, mate.
So he starts reading the Bible, amongst other things. Of
course he fucking does.
Now he becomes a born-again Christian.
Ugh.
And it means that while he's in prison, he starts a prison ministry and starts writing a book, which is a memoir about basically being in the Manson family. And it also talks in detail about the murders that he committed. How do you feel about that, Rachel Fairburn?
I mean, by all means, use writing as therapy, but I don't think you should have your work published. I think it should be used to assist police and authorities and medical professionals to learn something. I don't think it should be out there for public consumption. I mean, all right, but I don't think you should be able to buy it.
Interesting. Well, he becomes a man of faith. He becomes so religious, like I say, that he sets up this ministry. And one of the people who defends him and his right to rehabilitation is someone quite unlikely, which is Rosemary LaBianca's daughter, who is religious herself and is like, you know what?
Fucking hell.
Yeah, she says if he says that he's repented and he's found Jesus Christ, then who am I to judge? Which is
very, very noble of you, very brave, very to your faith. But fuck me, I couldn't do that.
The other thing he starts doing, it basically, the end of his book talks about this murders, and at the end it says, and you know what, I've surrendered myself to Jesus Christ. He's going to redeem me. I'm going to be, faithful to Christ. Now, someone reads this book. They're a 20-year-old. They live in the area, and she's Norwegian, and they start seeing each other.
Ugh.
And she gets conjugal visits.
Oh, fuck off.
And they get married, which I have got very weird feelings about.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna go hardline on this. I believe that prison is there for rehabilitation, right? That is fundamentally the point of a prison, right? It should be a punishment, but fundamentally is rehabilitation. That's what we should be aiming for. However, when you've committed such fucking horrific crimes, including the murder of an 8-month pregnant woman, and then you're in prison and you get to be banging some fucking 20-year-old Norwegian chick. I'm sorry, there has to be a line on what is allowed, because basically you're engaging in something that you took away the chance of several other people.
Yeah.
Where is the fairness in that, I would say,
Well, one of the things that really upsets Doris Tate, who's Sharon's mother, is the fact that he gets these conjugal visits. In fact, he manages in that time with his wife. There's a picture of them on their wedding day. It's absolutely bonkers. Her name is Kristen Svege. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Svege.
If you're Norwegian.
Sven?
Yeah.
Svegen? It'll be Sven something, won't it? Svegen?
She gets pregnant 4 times. She has 4 children to him.
Fuck's. You see, now this is the thing that, I can you imagine being Sharon Tate's mother? And can you, or a sister or whatever, can you imagine thinking she was murdered and, the child died and she was buried with a 8-month-old, not even born, son, and you're finding out that someone who was complicit in her death has now gone on to have 4 healthy children.
Yes.
From his time in fucking prison.
Well,
sorry.
You're bang on, because Doris Tate, who's been very quiet up until then, because obviously her daughter and her unborn grandson were murdered, this rebirth of Tex and him being a family man from prison spurs her into action, and she becomes a victims' rights activist. And one of the things she campaigns against is against conjugal rights for people who are serving life for murder, and she managed to get it repealed. So
good.
Yeah, and she rocks up at all the parole hearings for Manson and all of the family as sort of a visible representative for the families of the people who've lost people.
I'm going to be very blunt about this. You can't commit crimes, go to prison, and still be getting your dick wet. I can't. I'm sorry. There has to be. And it's probably that thing of like, you know, he's become a born-again Christian, he's got married, probably something to do with like, oh, the marriage has to be consummated, something like that. Well, tough fucking titty, I'm afraid. I just find it, if you want to get married, fine, but, you know, the intimacy and stuff like that, there has to be some sort of punishment for what you've done, and taking that away from you seems fine to me.
Yes. Now, she clashes with Rosemary LaBianca's daughter, who's Susan LaBerge, over this. Mm-hmm. This is fucking mad. So, you know, I said that she sort of said, oh, I forgive him. So what happened is, after her parents, she had a big breakdown. And the only way she got through it was by finding faith. So she became this born-again Christian, and she'd married, she had a family. Fair enough to, even just kind of fair enough to say to the press, listen, part of my faith is forgiveness. This is the bit I don't understand. She starts secretly writing to him in prison. So for about a year, she starts writing to Tex. And she basically is like, I'm sure he's sorry. He's such a man of faith that I'm sure he regrets doing this. So one thing she starts to do is help him get parole.
Oh my fucking God.
So in 1990, she testifies on his parole board. She writes them and says, listen, I visited him, and this is the quote, I shared the forgiveness I felt toward him and felt very certain that Charles was deeply remorseful of what he'd done. That's what she said. Now, when Doris Tate, Sharon's mother, sees her at the Watson, at Tex's parole hearing, she goes fucking mad. She follows her out to the car park and says, you are one stupid shit.
Fair enough. Absolutely right. I agree. Of course, this is her faith, as it were. And, you know, whatever. I'm not criticising that, even though I find it absolutely bizarre. But, you know, it's not just you that's been affected by this. Someone has to take their punishment. This is his punishment.
But he avoids it in all kinds of ways, because part of the prison ministry means that he gets sort of preferential treatment, and that he doesn't have to do the worst things because he's like on ministry work whilst in the prison. So he
fucking knows what he's doing.
Yeah, they also
sat there on trial pretending that there's something up with him, and then he's gone into prison. He's like, oh, how do I make this easier for myself?
Do you think it's that? Yeah, well, because also
100%.
He's bright, isn't he? Him and his wife also commit like decades of benefit fraud when it comes to their children.
Oh my fuck! Have a day off. Honestly, can you have a day off from being an absolute turd?
So he gets transferred to basically near Sacramento, a place called Mule Creek State Prison, which sounds lovely, to be honest.
It does actually sound quite nice. Charming.
Now, he gets a psychiatric evaluation in the 90s. By the way, in this prison, he's given his own office. He takes over the warden's office and is like, I need this for ministry work.
Oh, please.
But the psychiatrists are like, we think this is a really fucking bad idea, because this is a man who's kind of getting away with murder, who had a cushy deal up to the, was getting home-cooked meals whilst he was awaiting trial. And now he's got this really cushy, powerful position. He's fucking doing, like, benefit fraud from prison. And they referred to him as a walking time bomb. And that basically he had a lot of anger towards the system and society that they thought would come out at some point.
Sounds like me, to be honest.
Yes. Now, Bill Boyd, who was his attorney, if you remember, the one from Texas, had loads of tapes of him talking about the crimes. Mm-hmm. This is before they went to trial in 1971. Now, fucking Bill Boyd goes bankrupt and dies, so they sell all his shit. The firm, basically, he's working for, they sell all this stuff, which means that a trustee gets it. And then the LAPD were like, fucking great, we can get access to those, because maybe we can make him stay in prison if we find him, that he was lying about Sharon Tate and he was lying about this, and maybe it was worse than he thought. So it's this. I can't believe this is still going on. In April 2013, which is not that long ago, they said, yeah, fine, LAPD, you can have the tapes. So they were transcribed, and the story was broken about it. The LAPD sort of refused to give comment on it, but straight away the press obviously go to Sharon Tate's family, and the family the surviving family of the other victims as well. Now, the LAPD never say what's on the tapes, but the Sharon Tate's family and the other victims' family said, listen, there's nothing actually important on them. It was everything that we already know. Right. But I also think it was fucking weird. Basically, that they didn't actually listen to the tape. The LAPD just told them what was on the tapes.
Yeah, that's... Let them listen.
Do you think let them listen?
If they want to listen, and they've been through enough, let them listen. Do
you know what my thing is? Is that, like, I don't know why you would want to listen. That's what I struggle with.
I know, but, I mean, that's the thing, but we've never been in that situation. I mean, I guess if something terrible like that had happened to someone in my family, you might want to, it might be, you know, you feel more in control of things if you like, I want to listen to it, I want to know. I think the least you can let somebody do who's been through that is if they want to listen to something, let them fucking listen.
Yeah, and to be honest, they were right to. So the LAPD were basically like, there's nothing new on the tapes, you don't need to listen to it. And then Deborah, who's Sharon Tate's sister, went, okay, cool, well, I'm going to get basically an American version of a Freedom of Information request so I can listen to these tapes. I know you say everything's fine, and we've been saying to the press everything's fine, but I think I'm probably going to ask for that. And they went, oh, shit, actually, there is something on the tapes.
Oh, okay. What was it?
Well, they said, listen, if this breaks out, the women might go free, because Tex is so upfront about what he actually does and how involved he is and how sort of minimally involved the women are. They think these women could go free. So Deborah goes, okay, I'm not going to file anything then. So all this is going on behind closed doors. But there's obviously rumours about, like, this is very strange, that the family don't want to hear what's on the tapes. So papers like the LA Times and the Associated Press are trying to get these tapes. They're denied. They said, oh, it's because it's an ongoing investigation. But it's obviously because they think that it would overturn the convictions.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I don't think it'd be that easy, but, you know.
You'll be sad to hear that Kristen Watson has now divorced Tex.
Oh, God, I hope he's all right.
Well, they got divorced actually in 2003. She cheated on him with a guy that she met at their church.
Wow. How Christian of her.
It was just very Christian. Also, imagine this, right? So your dad's a murderer. You're conceived in prison. What's the third, and don't send emails about this is clearly a joke. What's the third part of that triptych, which is going to make you ostracised from society? They were homeschooled.
Oh, fucking hell.
So they're homeschooled. But because Kristen is like, they're going to get the shit bullied out of them as soon as they find out who their dad is. So, and, you know, she wanted to give them a very Christian education. So nothing about the planet.
Oh, she wanted to keep them at home and brainwash them. Absolutely fine. No problem with that.
Would you know in Germany that there's laws against homeschooling? Because it's one of their ways of dealing with their past. Give it a Google if you don't know what I mean. Is to stop people radicalising their children.
Look, you know, I've got strong views about this, and please don't write in because, you know, it's just an opinion. I'm not telling you not to do it. If you want to homeschool your kids, you go for it. But this is just my opinion. Obviously some kids, if there's problems and they have to be homeschooled, whatever. However, I do think it's not healthy to be around adults all the time. And, you know, your parent, for example, children have to learn their own way in the world. They have to be around other children. Children are allowed private lives as well, you know. Just send them to fucking school. It's just control. And as I say, please don't write in because it is just my opinion, and I'm not saying you can't do it. I just disagree with it. That's how life should be. I disagree, but you go for it.
Do you want to hear what's happening with Tex right now?
Please.
Now, he's been up for parole 18 times, and he's been denied. The last time was, he was denied it in October 2021. And they said, nah, you got to wait another 5 years before you can even ask. He is in San Diego, California, at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility. That's where he currently is. Now, his church is doing very well. Oh, he also got done for fraud. He's been investigated it. So he had the fraud to do with his kids' births. So that's basically like benefit fraud. And he also uses money from the organisation he set up, which is called Abounding Love Ministries. and he's been using that for like personal things, and it's a Christian sort of group. So he's got a website about it.
How the fuck are you in prison? And you're managing to set up a business and a website. You're in prison.
But he's got a wife on the outside, and then there'll be people who are in the prison who signed up to his church who'll then do things when they're on the outside.
Yeah, something going wrong here somewhere.
Now, he sells his book on their website.
Fuck off.
He has a sermon, an online sermon there, where he talks about the 4 big killers of today. And they were alcohol, sex, drugs and suicide, as opposed to him, Charles Manson, Susan Atkins,
exactly, yeah.
and Patricia Krenwinkel. Now, his plan is that when he's released, whenever the fuck that will be, but we know it won't be before 2026, he's going to move to Texas and he wants to become a televangelist.
No, fuck you, cunt. No. He's going to die in prison, so we don't even know why we're worrying about it.
Well, they've rolled back his rights as well. So, he used to have this office and he used to sort of kind of rule the roost with his prison ministry. Well, this place in San Diego aren't having any of it. They're like, you're not allowed an office. You can run your thing, but you're not allowed it. And he's been there since 2017, so I think he's got far fewer rights there. And they have given him an official role in the prison, but not as minister. Do you know what it is?
What is it?
He's the janitor.
Oh. Well, useful. Productive. That's fine. No problem with that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing you should be doing in prison,
Yeah. It's a bit... It feels a bit more appropriate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's massively more appropriate.
Has that really annoyed you? I thought it might when I was reading up on it.
It's really fucking pissed me off. I'm absolutely gobsmacked about it. It's like I'm shocked and I'm not shocked at the same time. It's just really... Yeah, that's really annoyed me.
Do you know what I think is very interesting? That in America, where people sort of... and this is no comment on Americans or people with faith, but in America, how many serious criminals, murderers, etc., convert and become sort of evangelist, born again, really quite... kind of the more extreme, more fanatical side of religion. And if they did that in the UK, I think people would use that as a reason to keep them in prison. But because religion, it feels like, is more popular in the United States than the UK, just as an outsider, that more people have faith and attend church and things like that, that it's actually seen as, like, a good way to sort of prove that you're repenting in a way that... Do you know what I mean? Like, if over here, if a terrible murderer was like, I found God, everyone would be like, go fuck yourself, that makes you even worse, you boring cunt.
Yeah, totally.
But
totally.
Over here, people are like... in America, it feels like people are like, well, you know what? And people take up their cause outside of the prison then go, well, he's found faith and he's repented.
But I think we're very cynical about it, because I think sometimes I think we can genuinely see it for what it is, I think over here we're like, oh, of course he's fucking turned to God. I wonder why that is. But yeah, in America, I think I would say probably more people are more religious. Maybe it's taken a lot more seriously. Not that people here do take it serious. I mean, I was brought up a Catholic. I don't believe any of it, but I like to pop to mass every so often.
Keep your hand in.
Fucking church, me. Yeah, I love a bit of church, me. Like the costumes, don't I?
But you know what? Great outfits, great buildings, sometimes great
buildings,
music.
Great outfits. Love the smell of a church.
What does a church smell like? I imagine it smells like a charity shop.
It's sort of a weird... It's hard to describe, but whenever when a candle's just been blown out, that kind of smell.
Oh, my worst... Do you not know about my problem with this?
No.
So there's always candles burning in my house because I've got a dog that stinks. And I love the smell of, like Christmas candles. I burn them all year round. Do you know what, Rachel Fairburn? I've got to the age where I love fucking nothing more than opening a Christmas present and it's a nice candle.
It's nice, that, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's a nice present and it's nice to receive, isn't it?
It's delightful. And you know what? The whole time I'm burning it, I think about the person who got it for me. I love it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice present. You know what? Who wouldn't be happy with that?
My PR got me a lovely winter-themed one. And I burn winter ones all year round because, I think it makes the house feel warmer. When everything smells of spices and things like that.
I like winter ones, but I do like a spring one.
Oh, sometimes something really clean and fresh is nice.
Yeah, fresh linen, or I love a spring one, or things called like English garden, things like that.
Oh no, that sounds a bit Nana's drawer to me.
Oh, I love that heavy sort of smell.
Oh no, yeah, right, opposite. Anything that smells like toilet stuck or like a Nana's armpit, I'm not for.
Oh, I'm on board with both of them.
In fact, if you had a personal fragrance, it would definitely be called Nana's Armpit.
Nana's Armpit, yeah. That's definitely it.
But doesn't that sound like a speakeasy as well in, like, Berlin in the 30s?
No, it sounds like a bar that someone's opened in the Northern Quarter in Manchester. Some fucking hipster twats opened it.
Yeah. And you've got to walk, like into a beer cellar before you're allowed to go to it. But you've got to, like, lift up an old cinema seat and then climb through the gap in the middle, which means that no fat people can go.
Did I tell you about the bar in Manchester that I went to? I asked for a wine for somebody and they gave me a Sports Direct mug and I went, I'm really sorry, but my friend's not drinking out of that. I said, can I have a glass, please? Anyway, it ended up with me being told to leave the bar.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So I was like, what? I went, okay, fine. And we all left and I got outside and said to the bouncer, I went, are they for fucking real? He went, look, he said they do this all the time. And I was like, what a bunch of hipster cunts. He's like, yeah. Well, I won't say what I said as I was asked, as I left, but we'll keep that in the bar. But, yeah, absolute fucking wankers, man.
That is...
I mean, I think that's totally reasonable. All I said was, I'm ever so sorry. Can I have another... My friend's not drinking out of that.
That is...
I think that's reasonable. I'm paying £7 for a fucking glass of wine. I want it in a glass.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. The Sports Direct... do you know what that is as well? That's that fetishization of poverty.
Absolutely.
By people who don't experience it.
Yeah, there's so many problems with it. Like, oh, well, like, that's all we have. Like, that's how we serve our wine. That's kind of what we do here. Is it? You fucking knobhead. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. That's it. Do you know what? It annoyed me so much that I don't even want it in my memory.
Okay, sorry. Well, I was talking about candles.
Thank you.
So every night when my partner and I go to bed, we'll sort of like... you do the rounds, so you like switch all the lights off, check the doors.
Snuff out the candles.
Snuff out the candle, kiss the dog goodbye. Also now, shut the little cunt in his cage. So, my dog, as you may or may not know, has a broken back, so he can't feel his back legs, so he can't walk. So there's a little cage, he's got a wheelchair, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's the most fine dog I've ever seen.
Happy as a fucking...
Happier.
I don't know. Yeah.
He's happier because he gets carried everywhere he wants to go, or he's in his wheelchair chasing shit around.
He's having a good time, he's fine.
He's having a very good time. So he's in his little cage where he can watch everything. And we never shut the door on it. We never, cause it's one of those dog cages, a crate where you can transport them. We just leave it open so he can like busy himself and like help himself to water and stuff. Well, let me fucking tell you, for a dog that can't walk, he can go into the living room every night and clear up any chocolate or food that's been left in there.
No.
Yeah, and we haven't been we've been much more lax since he's been disabled about not, you do a sweep when you've got a dog and be like, oh, don't leave anything they can eat at sort of nose level. But you're like, it's fine, he's in his cage and he can't walk. Well, the little cunt has been making his way into the living room of an evening.
Without
and it's taken us a while...
on.
Without his fucking wheels on, mate. Yeah, without his wheels on. So,
like a seal.
So he climbs out of his cage, which is he's got to sort of jump over the first bit, and then he takes himself through the kitchen. He also goes through the kitchen as well, because we've now put a baby gate across into the living room to stop him from doing it overnight. He found that, and then he was like, right, what can I have in the kitchen? Found 2 fat balls meant for the birds, and then spent the whole day pissing out his ass as a result of it.
Oh my God.
Don't message me about chocolate. He's fine. We've had him checked with the vets. All good. But he has eaten chocolate. He ate a whole box of crackers for cheese. He had those rosemary flavoured ones. He had those Christmas Eve.
Too.
Yeah. Well, do you know what the other thing he ate? You know matchsticks you have at Christmas?
Yeah.
Well, he got it the wrong way around because he ate an actual box of wooden matchsticks. And
Fuck off.
I think it's because that's the one I use to light the candles, but by where I also eat the food. So I must have picked it up and had food on my hands. And he's been like, this smells like food. And then ripped open the box of matches, ate some of them, and then went, oh, that's not what I was after.
And then he'd reposition himself back in his cage?
No. He sometimes would... This is the thing is, he will go, what have I done? If anyone's got a dog, they will know this, that they sometimes go... You can see them almost with their head in their hand, shaking their head like, what have I done? I'd take it all back if I could. So he's basically as far as he can be away from us, which is the door to the outside to the garden, and he's looking at us like, I fucked up big style, guys. As there's a trail of devastation behind him where he's basically trying to leave the house before we get up.
No.
He's fucking...
He's trying to get out of the house.
Yeah, he's trying to get out of the house. He's appalling.
Oh, God, that's
all
so
this
funny.
is me trying to say, one of the things we do when we're doing the checks is my partner, I have to go up the stairs and he has to blow the candles out because the smell of a snuffed out candle makes me feel fucking violently ill. I hate it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Oh, I love it.
No.
That's what church smells like. You'd hate it.
It's the waxy, soy kind of like, oh, I don't like it.
How weird. I think that's one of the nice smells in life, that.
No. And sometimes I'll be like dozing on the sofa and, the candle will burn down to the end and the smell of it going out will wake me up.
That's so weird.
I find it disagreeable.
Wow.
We should talk about the other cunts.
Okay. Well, here's the other cunts. I've got point form here. Leslie Van Houten. She's still in prison. Mm-hmm. She's done a degree and she runs self-help groups. She's had 20 paroles denied. Patricia Krenwinkel, who, when she shaved her hair, was an absolute wingnut, wasn't she? I really like sticky out ears. I think they're quite charming.
I do, I think they're cute.
Such a disagreeable person, I will call her a wingnut. She is in prison still. She's known as Crenny.
Crenny.
Crenny. She's done a degree and she's been denied parole 10 times. Susan Atkins, one of the biggest cunts in this whole saga.
She is. I've got loads of info on that twat as well.
Became a born-again Christian. Got married twice in prison. 2009, she died of brain cancer.
She never stopped fighting back in prison. So she used to have regular psychiatric evaluations and she would argue all the way through them. She often refused to do them. She'd be very defensive. She just wouldn't. And this is part of her parole, is that she has these examinations. And in 2000, as one of the people who was assessing her said to the parole board, I can only conclude, based on her behaviour, that she still has a serious problem with authority and has assumed an extremely adversarial approach to psychiatric evaluation.
Okay.
So this is a very strange thing that they do. In June 2005, she's up for parole again, and they bring the victims' families in. Basically, they say, kind of, have you got anything to say for yourself? And she refuses to talk about the crimes or apologise for them in front of the families. Now, the mad thing about that is that if she had said, I did this and I'm sorry for this and I want to apologise, she probably would have got parole. Mm-hmm. But her refusal to acknowledge that she did anything wrong. This is a mad thing. So she's in the prison. They have a special sort of chain of gyms called Curves. Great. Where the women work out. And in 2008, she was doing an exercise class there and she had a fucking massive seizure. And that's when they found out that she had brain cancer. So
she's dead a year later.
Yeah. I mean, she had quite a hard time with her health in the end there. She had her leg amputated and, then she never really recovered from that. And they tried to get her released at the end of her life. Because you can get, is it compassionate release when someone's dying?
Yeah, I mean, where's she going to go, though?
Well, indeed. But, for the fucking craze, plenty of awful people get compassionate release.
I mean, to be honest with you, having brain cancer, probably better off in prison. You're going to get treated.
Yeah, maybe. But one of the people who came out and said, let her kind of die at home or out of prison is Vincent Bugliosi, the former prosecutor. And he actually petitioned for it. And he said, listen, just because she showed no mercy, it doesn't mean that we should be as inhumane as her and show her no mercy.
Well, whatever. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm saying that.
Deborah Tate, Sharon's sister, was like, keep her locked up. I've got loads of compassion, but she can just die in jail, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sorry she's got brain cancer, and that must be horrific. And I hope you should be treated compassionately with that and treated to the best of the medical ability. But you're still a cunt.
Yes,
stay where you are.
She's still a cunt. Yeah. So she was denied compassionate release, and she, like you say, she died September 24th, 2009, in prison.
Speaking of prison gyms, I've definitely mentioned this before. A friend of mine knows a prison chaplain who visited the prison that Rose West is in and walked past and saw her on a cross trainer.
That is so weird.
It's so fucking weird. That pops into my head about 3 times a year, Rose West on a cross trainer. I imagine you're in 80s workout gear as well. Bobby Beausoleil.
Yes.
He's in a medical facility prison. He's had his parole denied. He's going nowhere. He's still making music in jail, which you'll be pleased to know.
Well, let's talk about the big one, Charles Manson. Now, one of his former followers says Charles Manson got away with everything. People will say he's in jail, but Charlie is exactly where he wants to be. So don't forget, he is someone who always wanted to go back to prison. So he applied for parole numerous times. He was in maximum security prison. He was always refused parole. Now, he was a fucking troublemaker. He assaulted about half a dozen prison guards during his time there. He worked in the prison chapel from about 1980. And this is fucking mad. Here's all the things he had stashed in the prison chapel. Weed. 100 feet of nylon rope.
Right.
And you'll love this one, Rachel. A mail order catalogue for hot air balloons.
Brilliant. What was he planning?
What a fucking getaway. Now, he wrote a book.
And did he say to someone on the outside, hey, listen, I want some things that are going to get me high, and he got weed, and then someone misinterpreted it and gave him the hot air balloon catalogue?
He wrote a book in 1986 called Manson in His Own Words. It's a mad... The bits I've read from it are crackers. There's a quote about him saying... my eyes are cameras and my mind is tuned to more television channels than exists in your world, and it suffers no censorship. Through it, I have a world and the universe as my own. Like, okay, babes.
Sounds fucking shit, mate, if I'm honest.
In November 2014, the California Department of Corrections gets a email saying, can you please grant a marriage license to this 80-year-old man? His name is Charles Manson. I mean, he's married a few times, isn't he? This is, I think he's married twice, right? After Elaine Burton is 26 years old.
Oh, God. And
was petitioning for his release. And she says, I love him. I'm with him. There's all kinds of things, which I think means that they're banging. Ugh. And obviously Deborah Tate, who remained a campaigner, was like, I think this is fucking insane. And said, this is proof that the devil is alive and well.
I mean... Where does it end for people that have been affected by what these people have done? To keep hearing about these constant, freedoms that they get and perks, really.
Yeah.
I just think it's out of order.
He is also found with a fucking mobile phone in 2009. And he'd been phoning...
Does he know how to use one of them?
But he'd been phoning people in Florida, California, New Jersey, British Columbia. They don't know who, and they don't know if
Who is he ringing?
I don't know. They don't know what he was doing, but they were like, we can't prove that it was used.
Do you know, I reckon it's probably people that have written to him and in some coded way have managed to give the phone numbers.
I think it's that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said that they couldn't prove, though, that he committed a crime with it, so it was just a violation. It wasn't an actual criminal act, which means it didn't affect his sentence. But he's obviously repeatedly denied parole. Also, one of the reasons why is that he was a fucking troublemaker, and apparently he was really controlling of other inmates. They think that he had schizophrenia and paranoid delusional disorder. Not those are the things that mean that you should be put in prison, but that combined with his past was a pretty compelling reason to keep him in there. They thought he was still a danger. I think he dies waiting for another parole thing.
Yeah, he's going nowhere anyway.
No. So he dies in 2017. He's in hospital at this point in California of natural causes. It's November the 19th and he passes away. He was 83 years old, which is a fucking good old age, isn't it?
Not a bad innings.
So I think have we covered everyone?
No, there's a couple more. What I will say about Charles Manson as well, during the first lockdown, I went down a rabbit hole of looking at stuff. I ended up on a murderabilia website just out of curiosity, and you could have bought Charles Manson's prison worn underpants.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no thank you.
Oh, do you know what? Also in November 2009, there's this DJ who lives in LA called Matthew Roberts, and he basically had all this evidence that he was Charles Manson's kid.
Oh.
Now, his mum was a Manson member, and she said she'd been raped by Charles Manson in these letters. Mm-hmm. And then she hid, as soon as she found out she was pregnant, she left and went back home. and was like, right, okay, I'm just going to give birth and I'm going to get this baby out of my life. So he was born March 22nd, 1968, and is given up for adoption pretty much straight away. There's no DNA test that I'm aware of, but Charles Manson was like, yeah, I could be the dad, which means that it was his way of saying he did rape that woman.
Right, okay.
This was about 2 years before they started murdering anyone. I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, he was a murderer, but he wasn't a murderer when he fathered me.
Right. Okay.
Why? I don't get why you tell anyone.
No, I don't. I mean...
If you thought he was your dad...
There's probably people that have found that out that have just been like, oh, well, there we go.
Do you think it's like a PR thing? Sorry to sound really cynical.
I honestly don't know. That's just maybe someone thinks... A story's a story, innit?
Can I tell you, when I said he's a DJ, to clarify, he's a local radio DJ.
Oh, I imagined that, yeah. I wasn't imagining, David Guetta or anything like that. Although some of the stuff he plays, I wouldn't be surprised Charles Manson was his dad. So he's dead, basically. And also, here's what I will say. I refuse to watch any of these interviews with Charles Manson. I think he got far too much publicity.
Do you?
Yeah, I think he was far too, he was encouraged too much, I think, and he, we've heard his side of the story, that's it. You're in prison now, shut your mouth. I think all these interviews with him, I refuse to watch them, I'm not interested. The ramblings of a madman. And
yes,
I just think it's very disrespectful. The rest of the bunch, the gang, Clem Grogan was released in 1985. Married in prison twice and had 2 sons. No, married in prison once, had 2 sons. Lives in California now and is in a band. Now, here's the person I hate. Lynette Frome, Squeaker. Absolute weirdo, in my opinion. Moved to Sacramento in 1975. She aimed a gun at Gerald Ford. The gun wasn't loaded, but she still was given life in prison for this. She escaped briefly. And in 2009, she was paroled, age 60. I don't think she should have been.
No,
Sandra
I don't
Good.
think she should have, yeah.
She got 10 years in prison. She was released, but she was obsessed with Manson and moved to California to be nearer to him.
Fuck me.
Linda Kasabian, as we know, she got immunity for testifying. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that she was involved, they think, was she was the only one who was legally allowed to drive. So they used her as a getaway driver. She obviously testified against them. She just lives a quiet life now, apparently.
Really?
Brunner. I can't remember her first name, I do apologise. Actually, why am I apologising? The person's a nutter. She was the one who had the child with Charles Manson that they called Pooh Bear. She was released from prison eventually. She now lives in the Midwest. She has a quiet life.
Fair play.
Please let that be all.
I think that's it. We've done it, Rachel. We've done it.
I've closed the book that I have here on the Manson family. I've slammed it closed. They're done. I
don't know what happened with it because I can't find more information, but I do know that Charles Manson made his will out to that guy, that DJ.
Oh, great. Here's my prison-worn underpants.
Well, no, because there'll be fucking shitloads of money from the book and stuff, won't there?
Here's my hot air balloon catalogue. Oh, thank you. I will treasure this forever.
Do you know what I always think of, right? I'm sorry to invoke probably one of the most disgusting people we've talked about in this, but Marilyn Manson.
Uh-huh.
You know Marilyn Manson, how he got his name?
So didn't he pick something, the most beautiful thing and the worst thing?
It was like the most loved person and the most hated person. So Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson is what he ended up with. But that's not actually what would happen, right? That's not the most loved person and the most hated person. You would be called like Adolph Allison Hammond. But it's not as catchy.
Or Adolf Jesus.
Yeah, Adolf Christ. But
Adolf Christ, yeah, or Adolf Mum. You know? I think
the fact that there's more better options. But just be honest and say that you're being a shock jock, you fucking creep.
Yeah, he's never liked his... I've done that thing, I hate it when people do that. Never liked his music anyway. Never liked him anyway.
I have to say, I thought there were some bangers in there, but...
Yeah, not for me. Not my bag. Never enjoyed it. What kind of music is it? Goth?
Yes, goth is fair.
Yeah.
Have you not heard Disposable Teens?
No.
That's probably the biggest single outside of the cover of Personal Jesus.
It was very much not my...
Yeah, it doesn't seem like your bag.
Not my vibe. So that's it.
We've done it.
Family.
We've got through it. Bingers, thanks for holding strong. We hope you've enjoyed the last probably 7 or 8 hours.
Fuck me. I mean, this has been an hour.
Yeah,
Yesterday was an hour and 20.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Thank you for listening. And at the end of this episode, to the bingers, you got there.
You did it.
You did.
You probably just had the worst day of your life listening to all this shit. I'm so sorry.
An entire like shift.
Yeah.
A 9 to 5 probably you could do with all these episodes. So to the bingers, thank you for being patient, and we hope you enjoyed it. And hopefully the chap who keeps commenting, for fuck's sake.
We should find out what his name is. Give me 2 seconds to find out what his name is so we can give him a nice little shout out.
We'll give him a little shout out.
Oh, anything else to...
Any other business? We're at Just for Laughs on the 4th of March. Is it 3rd of March or 4th of March in London? Tickets are selling very fast for that, so get in while you can. You've got one more tour date left.
Yeah, don't worry
Norwich.
about that. Yeah.
Well, I'm popping it out there. Norwich.
Thanks, mate.
There's about 10 tickets left for that. That's your very last tour date of Home Truths. I am on tour from the 21st of January, 21st of this month, 21st January 2023. Start in Newcastle, go to all the major places that you think I'd be. You know where to find the information. Just Google Rachel Fairburn, Can I Be Awful Tour, and you'll get all the information there. Some of the dates are very, very busy, so yeah, buy a ticket.
Great, really slick, well done. This episode is dedicated to Binger Ian Smith.
Ian Smith.
Who has given us non-stop shit every time we put an episode out, being like, when's the next one? How many is it going to be?
Well, Ian Smith, you have been patient, and we appreciate it, and we hope you've enjoyed it.
You have been lovely for listening, and thanks so much for all your lovely feedback. We value you. You're precious. We're very lucky to have you. We're very generous to have you. I nearly said that fucking belies a real truth, doesn't it?
You're very lucky to have us. Sorry. We're very lucky to have you.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.